What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mikey Yourself. And this week's video, we're actually going to do the reverse of something I've done in a prior video. Let me explain. Alright, so in previous videos, you've seen me make my bike louder. I didn't do it with the Road King. I did it with the Road Glide, where I removed the baffle and took off the packing from around it, and then I put the baffle back in, so it gave it a little bit deeper of a growl. When I upgraded the exhaust on blue, I put the fishtails on there, and that's straight pipe. So essentially, and I don't know, like, I guess you could argue either way, but I would liken this to drag pipes. And with drag pipes, you get into that debate of lack of back pressure and the drag lag and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, what I found is, as much as I love the sound of that straight pipe, it's just too loud. Like, over time, when you go out for a longer ride, it wears on you. So I want to tame it a little bit. And well, I bought some baffles that I want to try out. I don't know how this is going to go, because unlike a lot of other fishtails, or maybe this is the common thing, these aren't tips. This is a full, like, unit that goes to the slip-on piece, so it's not like I can just pop that end off and slide a baffle in and pop that back on. I got to figure out a different way to get the baffle in. So let's look at the baffle. So these are the baffles I got. These are from V-Twin, which is a pretty popular manufacturer. I'm sure if you're buying accessories, you've seen them, as well as, like, you know, Drag Specialties and all those guys. So these are 8-inch long baffles, and they have the padding already on it. And yeah, we're gonna have to try to figure out to see how can we get those into these, still have access to them if we ever want to remove them or whatever, or if we find out like they suck, like we put them in and it just causes problems. You know, we got to go through that whole process. So what we're going to do, though, to see what the impact is we're going to use our trusty sound level meter, and we're going to measure what the sound of the bike is in the garage. Same location kind of thing, so everything is going to be a control. And we're going to see how many decibels this thing is kicking out on start. And then we will go ahead and take it apart, put those in, and then measure it again and see what gain we have. And then I'm going to have to give it some time. So like with all of my other things that I do to the bike, I like to put some miles on it to find out, is it, you know, does it make sense? Does it really work? So if I don't have any immediately jumping out issues, you know, I'll probably give it a month, 2 months or whatever to ride it and see if the, you know, if the sound is significantly less, does that help with the ride? And I know you can do earplugs and all that stuff. I get it. There's other solutions. I don't know. It's also nice to, like, if I crank the bike up at, you know, early in the morning because I want to go on a ride or whatever. I live in a cul-de-sac, so it'd be nice to not, you know, shake the hell out of everybody's condo over here. So let's get started. I got to get the bags off, and well, actually, we'll take the measurement, then I'll get the bags off. So bass sounding here, if I don't make a noise in the garage, we're getting about 42 decibels. Of course, as soon as I open up my big mouth, we're jumping up to like 73 or whatever. I got this set to where it is measuring a little bit more consistently. It's not jumping quickly, so you can set this to fast and slow modes. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna crank up the bike and let's see what number we get. Alright, so you saw we got about 100 decibels. It kind of bounced around. It did jump a little higher on the initial start, but as soon as it tamed out, it was kind of bouncing around in the 90s, high 90s, with some odd fluxes every now and then. Now that's with, I didn't have the microphone pointed directly at the exhaust. I'm trying to get kind of an ambient sound measurement and not so much of a direct. So kind of keeping in mind, this is how it's lined up. We're going to do the exact same thing once we get these baffles in. But for now, let me get the bags off. Let's pull off these slip-ons and see how we're going to figure out, you know, getting the baffles in place. All right, so I've got one of the fishtails off already. Like I said, it's a solid unit, right? So let's talk about how we're going to crack this nut, right? So the OD or ID of this pipe is 1 3/4 inch, so that's exactly what I bought, was 1 3/4 inch setup. So you can see it's going to fit in there. It's not super snug, it's just right. Now there is a screw here that is made to hold it in place, so we're gonna have to drill a hole on the bottom. We'll find a spot, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna measure out the distance of how far, because this goes to the header, right? So the header goes inside of here. So I gotta measure how far this goes, or the header goes into this, take that distance and mark it off, and then we'll be able to take this and go ahead and slide it in there and put the screw in. Now, in theory, we could probably just drill a hole way down here and slide that bad boy, you know, until it gets there, but then you have to deal with like rotating this, and if it's too far away, it might be really tough to rotate it. So you'll be trying to line up that hole forever. So I want to try to keep it close. Now what I don't know is if these baffles have to go a particular way. So I know some baffles, they have the little, like the cheese grater cuts in a specific direction. So I don't know if this is the same thing. And looking at it, the holes are just, they're regular circles. So there's nothing special about the cut, like how it's going to break up the sound. So that is a huge win, because that means I can run the set screw or the screw, the holding screw, closer to the pipe end, which makes this lining up a little bit easier. So a huge win there. I need to also check to see if this is magnetic, because if I have to get it out of there, it'd be nice if I just you know, can stick a magnet to it. It's aluminum, so it's probably not, but what the hell. We'll give it a shot. The other nice thing is the nut on here is captive. It's welded on, so we don't have to worry about trying to like get a wrench down the pipe to hold it while you tighten up the screw. It'll stay in place. So this is a really good scenario for me. I'm lucking out quite a bit here. So let me go measure how far in the header pipe goes, and then we can go ahead and start looking for where we're going to drill our hole for the set screw. All right, so I'm trying not to skip the good parts for you guys. The easier stuff like taking out the exhaust or the slip-on, like that's kind of pretty straightforward. But figuring out kind of the tricky parts of this, I'm going to share with you guys. So what I'm going to use is essentially the dirty spot, right? I'm going to measure that out. I'm going to call it 2 inches. So it looks like my header pipe, or the slip-on, goes 2 inches over the header pipe, right? So if I take that 2 inch mark, that covers all of the dirty spot. So I'm going to use that as my reference and drill my hole, or I'm going to line things up and then drill my hole based off of that. So let's take a look at that. All right, so now comes the rocket science part of this. Just kidding. So I've got my pipe upside down, and what I've done is I've measured out my 2 inch mark. I use this, there's so many different marking things. This is chrome. I know this comes off really easy. This is the, use this to like mark tires, if you found a hole or whatever. So I just use that. I marked my spot. Then what I'm doing is I'm taking the edge of this, I'm giving myself just a little bit of a buffer, maybe about a 1/4 inch or so, and then I marked a hole or a dot where I can drill my hole where this will line up. So now all I have to do is pull this screw out, figure out what the diameter of the screw is, drill my hole, slide this in, and we can tighten it down, put it all back together. This is, like I said, this is working out really well. So I hope the momentum stays. All right, so I've measured out my screw. So that screw, I just use this little handy dandy thing that I got. Took the screw out. And I just kind of check to see what size it is. So 15/64 seems to be the magic number. It's not like super tight. It's got a little bit of play in it, but if it doesn't, then 1/4 inch is going to be the next step up. That's what we'll use. So anyhow, like I said, super simple. We'll put that there just to kind of hold it for right now. I'm going to take a center punch to keep our drill from dancing around on us. All right, let's drill our hole. All right, holes drilled. You just take this. And like I said, depending on your baffle, so if you're looking at mine to like, hey, you're like, hey, Mike, can I do this, whatever. Depending on your baffle, it may have a direction that the air has to flow through. So pay attention to that. And I believe it's based on how your holes are cut. Because if they're like kind of like triangles or something, then I think you want it to be able to flow, right? Or maybe you don't. Maybe it's for the back pressure. Recommend you look it up. In my case, I just lucked out, so I didn't have to look it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in there. Now what I don't know is, am I going to run into any issues with it, like making a clinking sound or whatever, because it isn't like super snug, right? Like I didn't have to shove it in there. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, so we're in. So I'm going to slide this on. Repeat on the other side, and then we'll measure. Pretty simple so far. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Got the pipes back on. Remember, as you put your fishtails back on, you want to make sure stuff lines up and all that good stuff. Yeah. So, moment of truth. We got the meter here. We'll line that up like we had it exactly. And let's get this measurement. So Alright guys, so you saw it was definitely, I had to adjust, I forgot to put the stupid meter in slow. So when you go in the fast, it's kind of like, if you have your fuel consumption in your car, like, you know, it does it like at that moment. So as you press down your gas, it drops that fuel consumption number down. So it looks like you get really bad mileage. And then when you let your foot up, it goes up really high. That's the fast setting. And then if you want to see your average, right, that's kind of the slow setting. So once I adjusted it there, you saw that we were getting a pretty good stability around the 90, right? So we dropped probably about 10 decibels. And to give you an idea, well, I can't give you an idea. You gotta kind of hear it for yourself. But I'm in a garage, it's closed, hence why I didn't run the bike very long, because I don't want to like go to sleep, right? So anyhow, it's a huge difference. Like it went from a very sharp, loud crackle. Even when you give it a a good bump on the throttle, it would kind of, you'd feel that resonate, right? Before we put the baffles in, and afterwards it just feels nice and tight. It's got a good, it's a low tone. It still sounds throaty, so I don't feel like I lost anything, and actually kind of gained my hearing back a little bit, right? So this is gonna be cool. I'll try to do a short or something and see if I can find a place where I can do kind of like a drive-by so you can hear what it sounds like. But huge improvement. I'm sure my neighbors are gonna thank me for it. And yeah, I don't know. Time's gonna tell. Let's see how these things performed. I didn't hear any pinging. The screws did have a lock washer on them, so I didn't put any Loctite on it. I mean, I guess I could. It wouldn't be hard for me to do. The total job here, maybe 30 minutes, right? Takes me a little bit longer because I'm doing the video while I'm doing it, but honestly, it was pretty quick. So if you've got drag pipes or you've got fishtails and you just want to bring the tone down a little bit, these baffles from V-Twin, they're a good fit. So it's going to be very specific to whatever pipe you have. So I can't say like this is the one for all pipes or whatever. I have the Wyatt Gunners, and the ID of the pipe is 1 3/4 inch, so I had to get an 1 3/4 inch OD baffle. So if you've got the exact same pipes I do, they offer them in like 29, 33, and 36. Should be the same ID. You could use the same ones I got. I'll put the link in the description. I got it through eBay, so as long as that guy has them, I guess. And if you don't know, shoot, comment below. There are many people out there that are being willing to help. So